Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. I'm going to show you this news clip and then I'm going to provide my commentary on the other side.
And Mo Brooks of Alabama, who was on this program last week, is revving up the Red Hots in spectacular fashion. During an interview with conservative radio host Laura Ingraham today, Congressman Brooks rejected the idea that the GOP's hardline stance on immigration is hurting the party. Here's his counterattack.
This is a part of the war on whites that's being launched by the Democratic Party. And the way in which they're launching this war is by claiming that whites hate everybody else. It's a part of the strategy that Barack Obama implemented in 2008, continued in 2012, where he divides us all on race, on sex, greed, envy, class warfare, all those kinds of things. Well, that's not true.
Okay, so you saw the news clip. You saw the story. This was not a statement made by a KKK member or a neo-Nazi or any other member of one of those fringe racist groups. This statement was made by a congressman, a man that has power and influence in this country, someone who is deciding laws, making decisions about policy that affects the lives of American people around this country. His statements reflect a lot of what I've said in a couple of my videos about immigration. Many people fear the idea that America is getting browner and browner and blacker. They fear the idea that one day there will be a minority majority population here in America. They fear that. They don't want to see America get brown. And that is part of the reason why they are so hostile to immigrants coming to this country. That's just the bottom line. They don't want to see Latinos in America. That's why they are standing in front of the buses. That's why they are holding all these rallies, these anti-immigrant rallies, because they don't want to see Latinos come to this country. That's the bottom line. That is the real reason behind a lot of this hysteria that we see from the far right. And this stepped up rhetoric that this man spouted or said is an example of this kind of animus, this racial animus and race baiting, basically. Because everyone knows that the Democratic Party is still dominated by white people. So the Democratic Party does not have a war against white people, because the Democratic Party is still a white-dominated party, just like the Republican Party is a white-dominated party. So that idea is really absurd, and it's really just about race baiting and to motivate these right-wing extremists to get them out for the election that's coming up. That's the motivation behind those statements. So, so that's the main point that I wanted to make about this. And, the idea that there's some kind of war against white people is simply ridiculous. White people continue to dominate every aspect of American life in this country, just about. They control the economy. They control the politics. Even though you have a black man in the White House, that black man is not the real power behind the government that we live under. And anyone that's familiar with economics, that's familiar with politics and how the political system works, understands this. There's no war on white people. In fact, there's a war against black people. And that war began the moment that we were kidnapped and brought here to America. And that war against black people continues in the form of a war on drugs. It continues in the form of the whole drug trade and how many of our people are dying in the streets. Many of them are addicted to drugs as a result of our communities being flooded with drugs, and many are incarcerated as a result of the drug policy in this country. Mass incarceration has had a devastating impact on our community. Yes, there is a war, but it's not a war on white people, it's a war on black people. When we look at how the police treat black people in our communities, obviously there's a war on black people. When the police can strangle a black man in New York City on camera and still not be arrested, yes, there's a war on black people. And I just read a story about another black person, young black person, gunned down in the streets. And that will be my next YouTube video. I'll probably put that up later on tonight. But again, I just want to go back to the point that I made before. There is no war on white people. This is just rhetoric designed to motivate the racist right wing in this country to get them out to vote during these midterm elections. It's like ever since Obama has been elected, these people are becoming more and more hostile. They can no longer contain themselves. They can no longer pretend to be okay with black people and Latino people. They are exposing themselves for who and what they are. Their horns are out and they're showing themselves for what they are. They're behaving and acting like devils. They're no longer using code language nowadays. They're making outright racist statements. And it is a shame that somebody like that is in Congress. It's a shame. It's a disgrace. And that's just a prime example why we have to vote in these elections. We have to vote out people like this Congressman Mo Brooks. And before I go, let me just bring home this other point. If the Republican Party wants to be competitive on a national level, they really need to embrace people of different ethnicities. They need to consider the interests of Latinos and African Americans. They need to include more minorities in their party. Not just as figureheads, not just as tokens, but they need to consider issues that are pertinent to the interests of minorities and, Latinos, African Americans, and others. Otherwise, the Republican Party is going to be reduced to being just a regional party. It's going to be reduced to being just a white Southern party. And such a party can't win, the White House or win on a large scale like that.